Ali, I like your costume. I think I'm wearing the same one.
Tired mom. It's awesome. Welcome everybody to the Adobe User Group, the Ohio chapter. This is our second meeting. We had our kickoff meeting back in August and had good attendance, and glad to see some returning names here. For those of you who are new, welcome. We'll cover off an agenda and everything. If you haven't already, please post in the chat a little bit about yourself, your name, your company, location. We're suckers for good Halloween candy, apparently. If you have any good costumes, and then how many reports you have. I put a note in here about camera on is encouraged. If you feel up to it, please come off camera just so we can see your face. This is a virtual event, but we do like to see each other and stuff. We will have opportunities in the coming year to get together in person, which will be fantastic to do, and talk and lament about Workfront. So speaking of Halloween, this was my family last night. Can anyone name the movie that we dressed up as?
Wait, what? I see Pikachu.
I have an idea. Yep.
Yes, Christina, you got it. How to Train Your Dragon.
Wait, so where are you in this?
I am on the far left-hand side holding up the axe.
Is that you with the beard?
Yes, that's
Did
me.
you just shave it off?
I was not wearing the costume to this meeting. But that's me. And then my son is up front, and he's in the green dragon there. The 5-year-old. That's my son's Silas. So yeah. So we've had a good start to Halloween, but my mother-in-law is like, everybody's here's your outfits for this year, here's the theme, go. So we just kind of all show up. It's fun. Lots of candy for that.
It's always so much fun to do, especially like a group together theme outfit. It makes it really cool.
It is, yeah. I'm Ross Barton. I work at Ology as a project manager. And then today I'm joined by 2 Workfront champions, Denver and Nuria. Some of you that were here last time at the kickoff meeting met Kirsten Collins. She was my co-lead with this user group. So within the past month, she has left DSW to take some time off. This meant that she unfortunately had to give up her position as co-lead. And I'm sure many of you know Kirsten, but I want to wish her the best in all her future endeavors. I'm sure our paths will cross again. When Kirsten and I reached out to Denver and Nuria to see if they would share their tips and tricks on Workfront reporting, they both enthusiastically said yes. And then when I learned that Kirsten would be stepping away, she immediately suggested Denver as a co-lead. So Denver, thank you for saying yes. Many folks may know already. But if you would, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, yeah, it sucks to hear the news about Kirsten. Years ago, before Adobe acquired Workfront, I was part of the leaders with a few other companies, including Kirsten at the beginning, that set up the user group in Ohio. That since fizzled once Adobe kind of acquired it and is now returning. So it's kind of a full circle of deja vu for me. Mm-hmm. But very excited to be here. Very excited to work with everyone. I am at CrowdStrike currently. It is a data security company, global remote. And I'm on their operations team. So I manage a few systems at the enterprise level. So Workfront is one of them, along with Zoom events and our video hosting platform. So various systems used by marketing, sales, and the enterprise. And I just manage the system, make sure the users are using it correctly, putting the processes around them, working with the vendors, all the above. But on this page, there's a link to my LinkedIn. If you ever want to connect or if you have questions, you can always reach out to me there. That's a very quick introduction. There's a lot we can talk about, but enough about me. I'll pass it over to Nuria.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nuria Munguia. I'm also here in the Columbus, Ohio area. I work for TD, which is a bank, Toronto Dominion. They are very predominant in the East Coast and South. So there's no branch here in Columbus. So it might not sound very familiar to you. I've been working in Workfront since 2016. So just, from Workfront to Adobe to whatever we have now, it's been quite the journey. I'm the application owner and the product owner, the application manager and product owner of Adobe Workfront at TD Bank US. We don't do anything with marketing. So we are outside of the marketing area, and we use Workfront for more of a workflow process management tool. And if you have any questions, as Denver said, you guys have our LinkedIn information, and just connect, ask any questions that you would like. We've probably seen it all by now.
Thank you both so much for being here today. Quick little agenda. We'll do some quick housekeeping, and then we'll get into the meat of the conversation, which is our trick or treat, which are about reports and dashboards. This will be an open discussion, so feel free to chime in at any point. At the end, we will have a slide that says open discussion, but again, feel free to jump in with any points or questions that you might have. And then we have some reminders at the end. So for the housekeeping slides, just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. Within a few days, the recording will be available on the user group YouTube channel. I will drop the link to that channel in here. I would highly recommend subscribing to that if you haven't already. That's specific to Workfront. And so all the user groups get recorded, and that content gets posted there. So if you're unable to attend this chapter or any other chapter, but find interest in the topic at hand, it's a great resource for learning. Again, if you do not wish to participate in the live session, feel free to drop off at any time or send me or Adobe questions regarding that at the emails at the bottom of the screen. Couple other house rules here. No self-promotion or pitching of any kind is permitted in these events. Don't contact people outside of the user group without their consent. And then if user group members share their use cases at a meeting, don't share that information without their consent as well. Just to reiterate a little bit about the Workfront user group, also referred to as a WUG, which took me a minute to get my head around. So we're a community of passionate Workfront users across Ohio and surrounding areas. This group is open to anyone in and outside of Ohio. If you find interest in the topics that we have, we'd love for you to continue joining. Our purpose is just to share best practices, collaborate, and help problem solve and network. We will hold meetings quarterly. We'll try to do at least one in-person event per year. And then in those meetings, we like to bring thought leaders across the Workfront community to the table to give presentations or to help foster a panel discussion and those sorts of things. We'll cover a variety of topics. We're very mindful that people from all skill levels join these sessions. And so even today's content was designed with that in mind. So we hope that you find at least one thing or one good takeaway from the meeting today. Again, this is for all roles. So our system admins, our project managers, traffic managers, and more. And again, the whole point of this is just to advance our Workfront knowledge, share these tips and tricks, and connect with people in the industry. Stay connected with our chapter, please. If you haven't already done so, please join our chapter. At that point, you'll receive notifications and reminders about new events that the chapter has posted. Most important things there at the bottom. If you don't join the chapter, you won't receive the new event notifications. Help promote our chapter as well. I do post on LinkedIn. We use a hashtag WUG Ohio. If you see that, please repost on your LinkedIn any of those chapter announcements or reminders that are coming up, just to help spread the word of this new user group All user groups for Workfront are new across the country this year. So that repost can, even if the person is not in Ohio within your network, maybe they can find one near them. And as a reminder, feel free to invite any other Workfront users from your company or network to join. So we like to, again, have all skill levels and different types of users join these events. Some information, primarily for our system administrators. This is the upcoming release dates. So Workfront just announced their first quarter monthly and quarterly release schedule within the last week. So if you're on the fast release or the monthly release schedule, the next update will happen on November 13th. And then that December 11th, and the full quarterly release will happen on January 14th on the monthly, and then January 15th on the quarterly. Workfront planning dates are there at the bottom. Looks like everything's in preview right now. Fast release is coming up here in a couple weeks, and then in production mid-January, along with the Q1 of Workfront. Here's a whole bunch of upcoming Workfront events over the next month or so. There's a lot. And so there's some really good things that are coming up. I'm not sure if a lot of you attend all these events, but wanted to, for people who might not be aware of them, wanted to list them here. Related to today's conversation is this Workfront report exists statement. So a little bit more advanced reporting topic there. But that is coming up here tomorrow. And then you can see that there's different things for Fusion, use cases for businesses, great admin chats if you're in marketing and creative. Chicago Lunch and Learn is coming up in November. And then the Workfront Collective is happening on November 17th. So that's admins from across the world there. And then the series that they run for the Admin 101, that will start again in mid-November. And then they just announced the next Mega WUG event. So this is an event that we, from user group members from across the country, all get together. This one, I believe, is being hosted by Boston. Yep, there it is, Boston, if I'm not mistaken. And this one will be focused on the roadmap for 2026. So the product marketing manager there, Julie Johnson, will join and walk us through that and see what's ahead for the new year. So highly encourage that you attend that event. You should have received an invitation, I think on Friday or Saturday, that went out for this event. If you are signed up for our chapter, you should have got that invitation as well. And then Summit is coming up in April, which will be, seems like right around the corner already. Just flagging the date here. If you sign up by the 31st or this Friday, you will get $600 off. It's an email sign up, and then you'll get more information, we're told, in the coming weeks with actual sign up details. I went in 2023. It was a fantastic opportunity to get to meet a bunch of people across the entire Adobe ecosystem. Found my community there with Workfront. Got to meet a lot of people in person that I see on some of these events that I go to, and it was a really special event. So, Denver, I believe you've gone to Summit as well, right?
I went once. Don't remember if it was last year or the year before. Yeah, the best part was just talking to other customers, other users, and talking to some of the product leads from Adobe. Some of the presentations were nice, but it was definitely more of the finding people and annoying them in the hallway to get some conversations and insights, which we're hoping to kind of recreate through this user group, creating those connections and creating those conversations.
Yeah. All right. Now for the tricks and treats of Workfront. I meant to have some like scary Halloween music going or something, but I didn't do that. So we have designed this portion today to be really focused on everybody. So we have some content in here for the beginner, some intermediate, tricks and treats, and then some more advanced stuff again. So we hope to make this a discussion. Feel free to come off mute, ask any questions, talk about your own experience or challenge. If some of these are new, or if you have questions about them, feel free to drop that in chat as well. I'll try to be monitoring that as much as possible. So I'll cover this first slide and then hand it off to Denver and Nuria. So if you're new to reporting, there's a great resource that was just published a few months ago, back in June, a success guide for reports and dashboards. This is a high-level summary of the table of contents there. So, some of the why do reporting, what are the benefits of reporting. The document contains a lot of information around data strategy. So, to view and measure the data, the information, must be in Workfront. So how do we create guardrails around who can create reports, what information is available, how they can be accessed and distributed, the use of custom forms, and then a formal process for requesting reports. This document lists a bunch of free resources, links to documentation, video tutorials and playlists, blueprints, so you don't have to start from scratch, and then a lot of resources within the events in the community. It does a really good job at a high level covering off key reporting elements. So user-based wildcards, date-based wildcards, conditional formatting, column rules, charts, access rights, automatic report deliveries, aggregation, so summarizing, a column, and then dashboards. A lot of that we'll touch on in today's session. And then it talks about how to get started in text mode. Text mode, for those of you who might not know, enables you to create more complex views and filters and groupings and prompts to use, allowing you to use fields that are not available in the standard builder. Has a really good discussion about audience consideration. So thinking about the end user of the reports, whether it's executives or project managers or people managers or users. Just some really good insights there that I thought would be helpful for everybody. And then where to get help. Again, a huge list of resources in here. And then at the end, it talks about the future of reporting, Canvas dashboards, and that new visualization that Workfront is bringing to the table. And then Data Connect, which is giving us the ability to connect with powerful BI or business intelligence tools. So some really good content in there. I'll drop a link into the chat to that document, which it looks like Denver already did. Thank you very much. Yeah, grab that when you can.
Woo. Thanks, Ross. Okay. So I just put together a list of most commonly used reports, tips and tricks that I find useful for my users. At the top left of each slide, you'll see it'll either be beginner, intermediate, or advanced. We're starting with beginner, going through to advanced. And occasionally there'll be links to appropriate help documentation from Adobe as well. So starting with beginner, these are some of the most common tools I use when building reports. And one of them is conditional rules. If you're not using conditional rules, use them. They are great. They are a big ask from our users. A lot of times when people log into Workfront, it is boring looking. There's not enough color. There's not things to pop out. Maybe teams are used to Asana or things like that, where they could have rainbows and explosions happen when something appears. Conditional rules adds a little bit more flair. You can add color, you can add icons, even formatting options to emphasize reports. So the most common use cases I typically use is, for example, if you have a task report and a task is late, highlight it red or turn the text to red. It's something visual and quick to the eye that teams can see. Another one is, for example, you have a project report, set the statuses to equal a certain color. You can even have it be a gray background and apply that rule to the whole row. So a lot of various tips and tricks you can do. But the one little one that I saw another company use, I don't remember where, that I really like. For task reports, there's a field called can start. It's checking dependencies. Can it start? Is it waiting on something else? And it'll either display true or false. True, it can start. False, it's waiting for something else. But for users, true and false is confusing. What does false mean? What does true mean? So you can change that using conditional rules so that true equals a green flag and red is an X. I don't know, whatever you want it to be. But all this is pretty straightforward when you're editing a report. You would just add the columns, and then when you select a column, there's a section called like advanced options. And then there you can add all these rules. It's straightforward, but they add a lot to reports. And honestly, as I'm going through this and future slides, there are more use cases than what me and Nuria and Ross put together. If you have others, just throw them in the chat, how you use additional conditional rules or any other examples that we talked through this. So that's conditional rules. They're great, use them. Another simple tip and trick that is just really good to know, you can rename column headers. Oftentimes on a form, you word a question in a certain way. That is very useful when you're asking information from a requester. But then when you have that field on a report, it's a long sentence as a column header. You can rename that easily while editing a report. So in this case, on our form, we say select the applicable geotheaters for this request. In the report, we just rename that column, that header, to just theater. And again, it's the same place for conditional rules. You just edit the report, select the column, and there's a button for advanced options. And then I believe this is the last, just very quick beginner tip, but this is a game changer. If you're not using wildcards, use wildcards. They save so much time and they help a ton. Wildcards is a way to reference a generic data point or a dynamic data point. Ultimately, instead of putting something very specific, project owner ID equals Ross. And then you have to make a same report for someone else so they can see their projects. Then you have to copy it and make another report for their projects. You can use wildcards that dynamically changes based on who's looking at that report. So if I have a project report where it's project owner, in this case, user, the $sign user is using that wildcard, it will display all projects owned by whoever's looking at the report. If I'm looking at it, it'll show my projects. If Ross is looking at it, it'll show Ross's projects. This is extremely helpful if you have a lot of team members, but you have like the same dashboard or report you want to give to them. Instead of having to copy that 5 times for the 5 team members, you can have one using the wildcard feature. The other use case for this is dates. As the common use cases, late tasks, instead of doing everything, the task report where it's the plan completion date is less than October 27th, you can have it instead be plan completion date is less than $sign today. That way, whenever you open and run the report, it will replace that today with today. You don't have to constantly update it. There is an Adobe help doc that has like more tips and tricks around this. You can add kind of like math equations to the date fields. What that means is if you want to see, I want to see everything due within the next 14 days, you can do $sign today plus 14D for 14 days. So there's different codes and snippets you can add there to kind of play around with those wildcards. A lot of those are straightforward, but if you Google any of those on the Adobe Experience League, they'll have more information on this. But I don't know if anyone else has any additions to those, how you use wildcards, how you use conditional rules, feel free to throw them in chat or you can jump off mute. Cool. So as we're going through this, yeah, keep adding things to chat. Now we're getting to more of the intermediate. Really what this is introducing is the text mode feature. Text mode can be scary and intimidating. Honestly, with anything in text mode, I have a cheat sheet and I highly recommend that. Anytime you figure out a new way to use text mode, just copy that code, put it in a cheat sheet, a Google Doc, or something like that. So you always have to reference in the future when you need to do the same edits again in the future. Oftentimes, I include that code in my cheat sheet and linking to the Adobe Help Doc so I can go back and find that information too. But here, we talked about renaming a column header. Renaming a grouping is more complicated. Sadly, I wish it was as easy as renaming a column header, but it's not too bad. If you want to rename the grouping, so for example, at the top of the screen, you can see by default, it shows the field name, type of list import request. That's really long. If you want to rename that to be more brief, for example, we change it to request type, you can do that through text mode. You have to add the groupings like normal, and then there's a text mode button on the groupings menu, and you would just copy and paste this code in there. It would be just changing the display name to whatever you need it to be, and just making sure that name key or key is there, and you just switch out the fields in there. It's pretty easy once you get it. It's just knowing what that code is, changing that display name. And then you can edit and change the display name. I wish it was the same as the column headers. Change ID to name. This is a common problem I see users run into that aren't like familiar too much with the text mode and more advanced reporting. They're having like a task report, and they want to show on that report a column for the project owner. But when they go into the report and they're trying to find the field for project owner name, it's not there. They find project owner ID, but when they add that, you just see a long trail of digits that mean nothing to the user. So this text mode cheat, this code, shows you how to take the ID field, in this case, owner ID, and change it into name so it presents the name. You would add the field as normal, add the owner ID. You would go to text mode, and it's really easy. Find all instances of ID and change it with :name. Save it, and then now instead of showing ID, it will show the name. One day that option might be there so they can just select it. But until then, if you ever run into the issue where you can only find the ID version of a field, you can go to text mode, switch ID to name with the colon, and then you have now a name. So just another quick, easy cheat sheet to know. Oh, this is the bane of my existence, column widths. I don't know if it's the same for other people as well. When you're looking at a report, you can always manually drag and drop the column widths, but that's saving for just you and your cache. So that's fine if it's just like you wanting to set it a little bit for just yourself, but for all your users, you might want to preset the column widths so they don't have to do that every single time. Get that first initial experience is better. For that, in the column widths, you can use this. I agree with Catherine. There are issues with this. It's a lot of playing around. Sometimes I use it for just one field, just to ensure if it's a lengthy text field, it's pushed out. So it's worth trying, but it is tricky. It's easy to put it in, it's just tricky to get it right. In text mode, all you have to add is these two rows of text, use widths equals true, and then width equals a number. It's pixels, so you're using big numbers here. For like text boxes, oftentimes I'm like 450, but it's really easy to just go back in, edit, change the numbers, and so forth. This is a big thing I've been asking Adobe for a while. It's not perfect. One day, maybe. Okay. We're now getting to the point of these are some of the really cool things that I really like. These are like my, these are things that our users love. This is a specific use case where you're displaying a text field And you can't really like limit the number of characters on that text field on like the form when someone submits a request. But on the reports people want to see, they want to see that data. And it's like good 80% of the time, but then one person submits a request and it's a novel. They write their whole life story into the request. So then you have this report where you're going through the list and then just a giant row that is really hard to see. So what we do is on the report, we aren't editing the field or anything like that. On the report, we can do a value expression where it's saying just display X number of characters. We only need to see the first 150 characters, 200 characters, and then the rest, if they write more than that, we added a little note at the end. You can see in the overview simplified that says, open the project for more details. So this gives our users at least enough of the overview or enough of that field to like get an understanding of it. And if they want to see more information, go to the project, edit it, or go to the form. Ultimately, how to do this is you'd add the normal field to the report, the description, the overview, whatever the text box field is. You would edit it, go to text mode, find the value field equals the field name, and copy, paste, replace it with value expression and that monster of text. You'll replace field name with the field name. The character limit, I know it got cut off, sorry. Character limit, it'll be the top character limit. So like if 150, you only want to show 150, you put 150 there. The next one you do character minute -1, so 149, and then you're good. This is huge for our users. It kind of keeps the reports condensed. I wish I had some like Excel or Google Sheets formatting where you can do that, but it's a good use case. Last intermediate, then we get to the few advanced ones. Combining columns. This is nice if you're not doing it. It's a good tips and trick. If you have 2 columns and you're like, wow, this is taking up a lot of space, you can combine them and it'll present both of the data in one column, one cell. Here you can see, we talked about earlier, doing that can start field for tasks. For example, can this task start, show a green dot. And then next to it, we have the task name. You can see there's like a lot of empty space between that. We can save some space by combining the fields. To do that, you just set up the fields normally, can start, and the task name. Then you'd go to the one to the left, can start, go to text mode, and then just add the simple line of code of share column equals true. There's a lot of things you can do here. Be careful adding too many because then it's just a mess of data. But it is a good, we'll get to a later use case. There's a lot of good use cases with combining information here. It can kind of condense a lot here. If you're combining columns, let us know because there's some cool things you can do here. Yes, the column width. Oh. Use widths equals true always gets me scared. Okay, we're in advanced. I will try to explain this as best I can. When you combine 2 columns, sometimes it can make it confusing. For example, on a task report, if you have a column for the task name and the project name, and if you combine them, it's just going to be a long string of text with 2 links of project name, and task name, and that's just like not useful. It's like now just a mess of information. So sometimes you want to add these formatting. So here on the right on that picture, I've combined 2 columns, the project name and the task name on a task report into one, but I added some columns and formatting to add like a header before the project name and a header before the task name. I'm just adding the word project and the word task before those data. That way, it's not just the list of those 2 things, and that's confusing. To do that, I'll try to explain as best I can. You'll want to add a column in the report. Don't select a field. You're not saying this is like a specific field or anything like that. You're just adding a column and immediately going to text mode. So you're not connecting that to any point of data or any field. Adding a column, selecting text mode, and then you're entering in this text of like display name equals whatever, text mode is true, and then the value. So here, for example, I did value, bold, project colon. So that column right there is just showing project for each row. Then I have that column of just project, and I combine it with the actual field of project name. So now it goes project combined with project name. I did the same thing for task, just the word task, and the actual task field name, combined those two. And then I combined both. So it's like 4 fields all together. The text field, project, text field, task, and combining them all together to make this kind of report within a report. But that gets complicated. Ultimately, that value is some like HTML like code. So if you know some HTML things like line breaks, you can add a BR tag into that, and then it would do the line break. I did that before the task one. There's things you can do there. There's a lot of things you can explore on this. This is to give you an idea of some things you can do. But again, this is a task report. We're just showing both. And I think this is the last one, or second to last one. I've been rambling a lot. There's a lot you can do with the reports. Last update on project. This is huge for our users, and this combines pretty much everything we've been talking about. Here, we're showing a project report and displaying the last posted update from that project. But we're also including some information like who commented that update and when was that update. This is great for teams who have their project list. Instead of having to click into each project to see, like, did someone reply? Did someone approve this? Did someone update this? We have this column that's last update. They can scroll through the projects and see when someone last wrote an update or replied to a message. And it's using the fields you can see on step 2, the like last note, enter date, the owner ID, the note text. And it's using a lot of things we talked about before, changing the owner ID to name, combining those columns, using the, and you could add headers in there if you want. You could have like commented by Denver and so forth. But this is huge. The only bad or problem we've had with this type of field and report is sometimes someone will just go into the project and just type in okay and send, and that's what the last update will be. So you'll look at your status updates and it'll just say okay from Denver. It's showing what it is, the most recent update, but it is pretty nice still to see. I know I'm flying through this. I'm trying to keep conscious of time, but if you have questions or additions, throw in the chat. This is my last one. You can do lists and call other objects from certain reports. I'm trying to explain this without becoming too technical, but this is an example of I have a project report. It lists all the projects, but I want to list all of the documents that are in this project. So you're referencing a different object type, which is documents, and a different object type, project report. So you have to do some text mode code. Whenever I'm referencing a different object, I have this code on the right saved in my cheat sheet where I fill in the blanks. So in here, I'm in a project report, display names, whatever you want the display name to be. The list method nested, it's the collection object name. Workfront has a whole API library, so I'm referencing document. So I'm looking and putting in documents. That's what the field value is in the API library. So I put that there. And then the value field is, okay, you're looking at documents. What is the field that you want to pull in from documents? In this case, I'm looking for the name. I just want to see a list of all the names of documents. I would put in value field equals name. You could do expressions and do fancy stuff, but the main thing here is you can call and look up objects through this. You just have to know what is the object type, documents in this case, and what is the field within documents you're looking for, name. And so there at the bottom, you can see the example of here's the project. And to the right is all the documents that are uploaded to that project. This is getting really technical. This is something you wouldn't show your end users, but it's nice to show a list. I've seen other teams do this similar for here's a project. Let me see all the tasks for that project. But then they would do a value expression to filter that even more. I want to see all the tasks that can start or all the tasks that are due this week. So then it's a simple list of all the projects, and in them are all the tasks that start this week. It kind of combines a bunch of things, but again, I copy that gray text box and I have that as a cheat sheet to then pull in, and I look at the API library to figure out how I fill in the blanks. I rambled for like 15, 20 minutes. You have a break for me now. I think I'm passing it to Nuria.
Yes. Well, you have a lot to go through, and very cool stuff too. So I'll try to go quickly. I know we only have like 15 minutes left. So this one is isolating a specific data population. So about a week and a half ago, my brand new system admin, we had about 4,000 issue records and about 4,000 project records. We had a shared custom drop-down field, sharing the project, sharing the issue. Instead of replacing a value, he actually deleted the value. So all the data was gone, right? So any record out of those issues, 4,000 issues and 4,000 projects, the value that was stored, it was gone because he deleted the actual drop-down value. You never delete, you always replace. So how do we restore the data, right? We're like, oh my God, what do we do? So what we did is we went to preview and we created, like a report saying, okay, give me all the issues and all the projects that have the custom status equals the one that we deleted, and give me all those reference numbers. Once we got all those reference numbers, we created a formula in Excel so that we could build an OR statement for 4,000 records. Because if you go to build the report, you are not going to be able to add an OR statement for every reference number, or an OR statement and manually add all those reference numbers. We had like 4,000. So that's what we did. It worked really well. So we were able to isolate the data that got, affected by the error and able to change it. So just very simple formula. We have a copy in the. You're gonna have, you're gonna be able to access it. I think, Ross, everybody's getting this deck, right?
Yeah, it'll be posted on Experience League. Yeah.
Okay. So that was the easiest way that we were able to isolate the data population that got affected. And I want to make sure I share with everybody because it happens, right? Mistakes do happen. And then you don't know how to or what to do to restore that information. Next. Data categorization in real time. I love this. So instead of creating multiple calculated fields to categorize information that meets a specific criteria, you can do it pretty much in real time. So in this example, we have a calculated field called harvest, and we have 4 fields. And depending on the value of each field, we're calling it a specific name. So if you can see, if x1 equals 1, then we're going to call it apples. If x2 equals melons, we're going to call them watermelons. Then the last one, x4, if it's equals celery. And that's what the two, that's what that sign, Nike, I always forget the name of that. It says the one that says celery and x5 equals lettuce. So we're going to call those vegetables. So once we identify what we're going to call that data, right, we have that field, that harvest field. Then each of these records have a status values. And they want, let's say, the line of business wants to categorize them not in the way that they asked for originally. For example, if the status of one is exploration, they want to call it started. If they're in discovery, they also want to call it started, and so on. So what you do is basically is one calculated field and a big long if statement, and then you are able to map this out in a matrix where you can show you no longer show like the actual field names, but you actually show the calculated fields that meet that criteria. So you can see we have in the harvest column, we have apples, watermelons, and vegetables. Then in the harvest state, we have started, in progress, and complete, even though that represents the status of 5 different records, you are actually displaying it in 3. So I hope that's helpful. Any questions on that one? Oh, okay, let's go to the next one. Governance best practices. So some of you may be already doing this already. One of my best tips is to standardize the process official reports. So we have over 15 processes that we manage in our instance, and we have to have a control of all the reports for each specific process, right? Because they all live in the same place. And also to avoid your user going rogue, and then you're stuck with having to update reports that you didn't create when something has to change within the process. So we have a process that has over 400 reports, and every time there is, a major change, and we cannot just go in and change the view, we have a log of all the reports that are impacted. Now the users may have their own, but that's not part of the official process, so we really don't make any changes to those. A standardized naming convention, that's a simple one. Just based on the process, make sure that you have related nomenclature so you have better management. And also, you can organize all these reports in folders within the report screen. Limit the number of columns per process per report. This is something that we've been working on. We have a business partner who has like 60 fields on one report and 4,200 records coming back. So it takes a while to load, right? Especially if you have calculated information there. So make sure that you limit. So as soon as you start working with your business partner, it's helpful to level set expectations, especially around reporting. You are the system admin. You are driving, the work. So you can set these standards across the board. The next one, hard code filter user per report. I think, Denver, you already went over this one. Use wildcards to create dynamic reports. So the user viewing the reports is the information relevant to them. Let's see, use report prompts to narrow down results of a report. So instead of creating very specific reports, give the user the option to use prompts, and then they can run ad hoc what they need. And that's pretty much it.
You mentioned.
I think this is yours.
Yeah, you mentioned like the 60 columns. I like, it's like so many conversations where I'm like, they're like, I need all these fields. And I'm like, no, you don't.
No, you don't. You really don't. Once they experience the lengthy wait, then just like, okay, I really don't need that many. So
Like, you're going to update all those fields. Okay. Yes, exactly, Catherine. A final very quick things. These are like, I don't know where to put them, and they're more of like out of the box features just to be aware of. Sending reports can be very nice. You can have reports automatically sent to users on a routine basis via email. It's emailed to their account on a daily, weekly, monthly, whatever basis. This is helpful for leadership sometimes on here's your weekly report that they get, and it can send to them, and it could be a status report and so forth. Formatting can sometimes be a little bit tricky to mess with, but it's an option available. Some teams love it. Some teams don't need it. Nuria brought up the prompt. Prompts are great in certain use cases. Have the user select the filter, and they're prompted when they open up the report. Just beware, prompts are an option. I won't go too much into that. The next slide has layout templates. If you aren't using layout templates, use layout templates. They are a lifesaver. You can prescribe pretty much certain dashboards to be automatically pinned at the top of a user's dashboard. I use this very heavily. Limit the number of columns that they have on these reports. Prescribe them the reports right at the start of what they need to use. And then when they're in Workfront and they're clicking buttons around and looking at lists and columns and groupings and filters, limit what they have. So I really try to reduce and simplify the user's experience, and that's done through layout templates, giving them dashboards, ensuring their list filters and views are what they need. Layout templates are awesome. And I think the last one, if you're ever in a report, just click the report settings button when you're editing it. There's some cool things in there. If you haven't checked it out, that's where you can update the name and description of the report. The majority of my reports, I usually do have a graph and a matrix column as well, or available for users. And then you can have it default to a specific one of those, the details tab, which is the list or the chart. But I like having the chart available because then someone, if they're on the list, they can click the chart and see it in a visual way. But that's very useful. And then the other one right below that, when this report loads, I max it to the top in most cases so that they can see all the items. Because a lot of times if you have it only show 15 items, people won't realize there's a show more button or a second page of a report. So that's useful. Play around with those settings. There's some good stuff there. Oh, sorry, sped ran at the very end.
You guys did it. Thank you so much. Virtual clap. Yay. We are right at time. But if anybody has anything they'd like to ask about, if something that was presented or perhaps a Workfront challenge you're dealing with that we could talk about quickly, the floor is open.
I will say, Ross and I were talking a little bit, trying to make this maybe more of like either a panel or like a quick presentation, and let's all discuss like what problems is your team facing about this topic, and then we go back and forth. But I would also say, if you're interested in talking or presenting your use case, reach out to Ross and I.
Yep, I'd be more than happy to hear it all out.
You have a really cool report. Show us.
Last few slides here. So there's some resources that are posted here with some links that are related to today's conversation. So Catherine, you are featured here with your expert insights about text mode. That link that we had shared in the beginning about the 8 steps to create simple, effective reports. And then just wanted to point to the digital learning services course here, creating reports. There is a lot of really good training content now around reporting. There's a video, that shared column report that Denver talked about, and then report scheduling as well. We do a lot of report scheduling in our organization just for weekly reports on retainers or hours or whatever it might be. and a lot of monthly reports too. So take advantage of that. So people get the information when they need it in a timely manner. Just a reminder, if you haven't joined our chapter, please do, so that way you'll receive invitations to future events. Denver and I are talking about possibly doing an in-person event in Q1, which might be a little tricky with Ohio weather. Who knows? But we're going to try to probably have a quick virtual session. And then that same week, hopefully have an in-person session, probably somewhere in Columbus or wherever it takes us. So again, sign up and stay tuned for more information on that. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. We hope that you found all of this useful, and there's some things that you can take away from this to implement in your own organizations.
Cool.
So thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
See you.